So let's rip into the agenda, shall we? And it does begin at the Tribunal, where right now Sydney's co-captain Dane Rampe is arguing his case as the Swans try to free him from a two-match ban.
You just can't legislate against everything, and particularly football actions. And once again, if you look at this really closely, it's an opposition player was leading the ball. He had his hand out, pointing in the direction where he wanted it. A left footer was going to kick it to him. Dane was doing what he should be doing, which is getting up the ground and trying to get in a position to spoil. There was a last-minute change of direction, and unfortunately, these things happen.
Make the case publicly before you front the Tribunal. David Zita, he follows every minute of these cases so that you don't have to. David, welcome back to AFL 360.
It's a good tagline. Hello, Gerard.
How have the Swans gone about this case?
So the Swans are arguing this isn't a reportable offence and that this isn't a bump. This was just Dane Rampe doing his job, trying to check the run of an opponent and check to make sure his player didn't get the ball. So Dane Rampe is giving evidence currently. He says that he saw Taylor Gerard at the Western Bulldogs had the ball in his hand, looking inward at Lockie McNeil, and so as a result of that, Rampe says he went to check the run of McNeil and get along his right shoulder just to make sure that he couldn't get the ball and that Gerard thought otherwise from kicking it to him. He says that this was a football incident and injury was not due to any want of reasonable care on his part. So Rampe said that he was not intending to make contact with McNeil, let alone bump him. So basically, McNeil turns inward towards Rampe and causes the contact. That's in effect what Sydney are saying, and so therefore this isn't a bump in their words. So Fremantle and Essendon in the next fortnight we know, but they're arguing this isn't a bump. This is one player running alongside the other player, trying to stop him from getting the ball. No election to bump. If anything, McNeil contributes to it more than Rampe does. That's the crux of Sydney's argument. Dane Rampe currently giving evidence now back and forth with the AFL Council, but Rampe insisting he did nothing other than try the run alongside McNeil's right shoulder and that this isn't a bump and therefore it shouldn't be a reportable offence.
I don't agree with Sydney's assertion there. You've looked at it 100 times. Do you think Dane Rampe beat off a line and went to bump?
I think that they're going to struggle to have this case found at the Tribunal. I think they're going to struggle to get off on this, but they're very insistent on it. You heard John Longmire there. He's insistent that this was a football action, this was a football contest, and Rampe made no inkling to bump. Now, it doesn't look good there when you look at inside. Rampe says he sees Gerard's eyes look towards McNeil. He knows he's a left footer and he can hit McNeil on a dime. He is trying to get alongside the right of McNeil, and then McNeil changes his running pattern and contributes to the contact. So Rampe insists he didn't bump, and this evidence is going on right now. He is very, very forceful in the fact that he did not commit a reportable offence. That's what they believe, and that's what they're trying to argue now.
Is that the only vision, David? Is what we've seen the down the ground?
So Sydney does have other vision which they are running through as well. Okay. It's a lot more. It's a much more of a close-up angle. It does show McNeil turn at the end, but I think the main issue here is whether Rampe was making a move to try and make contact with McNeil. We know the Tribunal guidelines. If you elect to bump, you can reasonably foresee there being high contact. So they're trying to prove he didn't elect to bump at all.
Yep.
But that other vision does show a much more closer angle, but it still is the same argument, I think, at its core.
So we have breaking news. So David Zita missed by about 3 minutes last week, but he is delivering tonight. The verdict is in. How did Dane Rampe fare?
Well, we saw John Longmire smiling in that package just then. He'll be smiling again because Dane Rampe is cleared to play this week against Fremantle. His charge has been thrown out. So the Tribunal has just come back and said, we find there was accidental contact between the two players and that Dane Rampe could not have reasonably avoided it. McNeil turned into Rampe and he did not initiate contact. He did not change direction to make contact with McNeil, and Rampe, having seen this, reasonably braced for contact. So the rough conduct charge of a bump has been thrown out. Dane Rampe free to play this week, Gerard.
So we've seen this footage here down the ground, right? And there's Rampe. Anyway. So I'm bewildered. How significant do you think the other footage that you spoke about at the top of the show could show that it was McNeil who veered off?
So there were images and other vision from the wing that showed that Rampe was running in a straight line and that McNeil was the one who did change direction. But at the same time, it did come down to whether he still elected to bump and make contact Rampe. So that was the argument in the end. The still images did help Rampe's case significantly because it did show that McNeil was the one to change direction, but it's still, I think, a relatively surprising verdict given it appeared on the first glance that he elected to bump. Clearly, the tribunal didn't think that, and that's why he's free to play this week.
It was a curious one right from the moment that it landed on Friday night. David, that's why we have you sit through these cases for us. Thank you.
No worries.
So Dane Rampe clear, finished with a 360 scramble, and this is... So St Kilda are about to play North Melbourne.
Yep.
You sat with Brett Ratton last night. You've decided, it's personal.
Oh, of course it's personal. Football is personal. You know, we got systems and all these things, but football is personal. That's why we love it.